So I learned something fun today.
I learned that you don't like to dance anymore.
Oh, I don't have that much energy left after all the DIY projects we were doing this morning. So I learned, don't ever try to install drop ceiling without wearing goggles.
Yeah, we need goggles or those clear glasses.
I ended up just wearing my sunglasses. It looked ridiculous, but yeah, that shit sucks when you get it in your eye.
Yeah, I'm bald, so when I sat down to finish what we were doing, I had an itch in my head, so I scratched it, and I realized there was a bunch of debris.
Yeah.
On top. It was gross.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, rule of thumb: wear a dad hat
and safety goggles.
Welcome to While She's Napping. I am Adam.
And I'm Cindy.
So hey, last week's episode, I feel like that's how we start it. So hey.
Yeah. That's your signature line.
So hey, sports and COVID and BLM. We received some pretty good feedback on it, and we'd like to thank everybody for listening. Today, I know we're going to get into the thank yous and everything, but I feel like today's episode was pretty much anticipated.
Mm-hmm.
And just through the previews alone, we sort of blew people's minds.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, a family member of yours, I was talking to him yesterday, and he swears that Shazam was a thing.
I know.
Everybody does.
Yeah.
So about to ruin your childhood, I guess. But anyways, yes, we appreciate all the support. We appreciate the interest. We appreciate everybody listening and downloading and subscribing. If you have not done that already, first of all, welcome to the show. Apparently, the Mandela Effect really interests you, and that's how you clicked on this show for the first time. It is a cool topic. I have to admit that when I, dug deep into this and the examples, it sort of blew my mind too.
Mm-hmm. We went down the rabbit hole when we first learned about this. Yeah.
Yes. But anyways, thank you for listening. If you have not subscribed yet, please do. We offer weekly content on random stuff, basically just about anything you guys want to talk about. We're open to suggestions too. But if you haven't already, you can subscribe. We are on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, which is the new podcast app, handing out millions of dollars to people to have exclusive. Did you listen to Michelle Obama's yet?
I haven't. I have to sign up for Spotify.
So does that mean we got to cancel our Apple?
I don't know.
I feel like Apple has more content, music-wise.
I use it more for podcasts. That's my go-to platform.
Their app for podcasting is just so clean.
Yeah.
Spotify's not. And Spotify takes up a lot of data.
Well, I'll use it to listen to Michelle Obama's.
Sure. Spend the $10 a month just for Michelle Obama. Anyways, we'd like to thank people from all around the globe for listening, specifically in the U.S., Canada, Australia, United Kingdom, Mexico, and Nepal. Yo, we always get one listener from Nepal. Shout out to you.
That's awesome.
And if you specifically want to get in touch with us, we'd love to hear from you. Anyways, within the United States, of course, Rhode Island, shout out to Rhode Island, Virginia, Massachusetts, California, Florida, Connecticut, New York, Georgia, Illinois, Maryland, North Carolina, New Hampshire, Pennsylvania, South Carolina, Texas, Utah, and parts unknown. We got the Mormons listening in Utah.
Oh, yeah. I wonder if they listened to the MLM episode.
Or the parenting as atheists.
Yeah.
I've noticed, the one that enraged
me. Yeah,
them.
maybe. The MLM thing, not to sidetrack too much, but I have seen like 3 or 4 new people posting about getting engaged with MLMs lately. It's like the pandemic, the increase we saw in the beginning is resurging. So that's another interesting one to go back to. It seems timely.
If you want to dig into the archives and check out all the old stuff, the cool thing about this is that it's timeless. So if you are one of those individuals that are, getting your feet wet with an MLM, Arbonne, Team Beachbody, I don't know what the Tupperware.
LuLaRoe. There's a new one called that I hadn't heard of, Beauty Counter. And there's a nail one, Color Street Nails, that I've been seeing. There's a lot.
Yeah, if you are getting your feet wet into that as a result of COVID, maybe unfortunately you lost your job, or you're looking to supplement your income during these difficult times, before you do that, I highly encourage you to listen to our MLM episode, and it may dissuade you from that. I don't want to call it a career path because it's not a career, right?
Right. They'll call it a business opportunity, but you should proceed with caution.
Anyways, if you want to get in touch with us on the socials, I know our friend from Nepal might be thinking, how the fuck do I talk to you guys? Well, here's how you do it. You can contact us on Facebook.
Facebook.com/whileshe'snapping, or we're on Instagram @whileshe'snapping, or on Twitter @she'snappingpod. You can also email us whileshe'snapping@gmail.com.
Hit us up. We love interacting with people. We love talking to people about various topics, and today's notwithstanding, it's going to be a wild ride. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about the Mandela Effect. I have to admit, like I said, when I first came into the realization of what this was, there are so many things that I am revisiting, and I'm thinking to myself, did I really remember this correctly? And it should be noted, look, we already did a podcast about conspiracy theories in general. Mostly it was covering the lack of people wearing masks and why they're buying into that sort of philosophy. The Mandela Effect came up. I'm not sure that I really am buying completely into this as a conspiracy theory.
Right. That was how we kind of decided to do this episode. The Mandela Effect came up in my research preparing for the conspiracy theory episode, and I said the same thing. I was like, I don't know if this is as much of a conspiracy theory as it is just a weird phenomenon. So I think we'll kind of get into that of talking about the different reasons people think that this happens, and if it is something kind of sinister or, intentional as a conspiracy theory, or if it's just kind of a weird phenomenon.
Yeah, I want to get to the examples, pretty much lay out all the examples that we could find on the second half of the show, because I feel like that's the main event of this, and that will really shatter people a little bit depending on what your interests are. But let's start from what it is. So the term Mandela Effect is it was brought out by this person, Fiona Broome, and her profession, she is a self-described paranormal consultant, in quotations. Paranormal consultant. Okay. Right off the bat, I'm already discrediting everything about this. Yeah. Especially, what does that mean? I'm consulting ghosts?
That's what it sounds like.
Consulting people about their ghosts?
The first thing that came to my mind was that she consults with spirits.
Oh, I thought she was a therapist for ghosts.
That would be like paranormal counselor. Maybe.
Like she's sitting down with Casper and I just don't know how I died.
No, I imagine it's just be that she communicates with spirits in the paranormal realm.
Okay.
But maybe I'm wrong. I don't know if there's an actual definition behind that term, but that's what I thought of.
She's a bullshit artist.
Sure.
Okay. Yeah, she takes people's money and makes shit up and puts her eyes behind her head and chants.
Probably
with incense and flickering lights and a Ouija board. Got it. Okay. Go you. Anyways, this was discovered, or not discovered, this was termed in 2010. It's a shared false memory phenomenon. So basically, when a large group of people, and I'm saying it's got to be more than a couple thousand. It can't be just within a group, right?
It's like worldwide.
Yeah, I don't think people would take that seriously, or at least regionally, maybe at the lowest levels. A bunch of group of people, or a bunch of groups of people, remember a certain event contrary to how it is now being recorded. So it's called the Mandela Effect because Nelson Mandela was he was a political prisoner from, I want to say, from in the 1960s all the way to the 1990s, because there was segregation in the United States. In South Africa, it was segregation on steroids. It was hardcore. And he was speaking out against such strict segregations. I know I'm not doing his good deeds and his contributions to the world justice here. Anyways, he was a political prisoner, and people swear to this day that he died in prison. Turns out, in the 90s, he was released and he became the president of that country. So as a result, people are like, whoa, 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 I saw you die.
Or I remember reading the headlines about your death. Right.
I remember hearing your wife give you a eulogy.
Right. But he actually died in, was it 2010?
2013, I think it was. Yeah.
Well, that's weird because I thought Mandela Effect was...
it had to have been 2010. Yeah,
because that's kind of when this term was
December
coined.
2013.
Interesting.
Because they thought he was dead.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. Right. But from what I heard, I thought most people became aware of it when he actually died in 2013, and they were confused because they thought he died in the 80s.
I think what they discovered, or they found out he was still alive, and people were saying, no, wait, you died.
So maybe when he became president, they thought that he
maybe
had
I don't
died.
know. Anyway, so the point is that there was this huge uproar of people saying, I swear I remember watching your funeral on television.
Yeah.
I remember watching your wife give you a eulogy. And this spawned to so many different things, and the vast majority of it is centered around things of pop culture,
right?
Which is not what Nelson Mandela is. That is obviously more of a political figure.
That's like a global historic event,
right? And so the only other exceptions, and I know we said we were going to go into details later, the only other exception that I could research and find was the Kennedy assassination. Mm-hmm. But other than that, so the reason why she gives that maybe people share false memories is let's go over the easily disputable or easily excusable ones. A glitch in the Matrix. That's one of her legitimate theories, is that there's a glitch in the Matrix.
Is that like the parallel universe theory?
No.
Okay.
No. So we're living in a simulation, right?
Oh,
Plato's cave.
Gotcha.
Matrix. We're living in a simulation, and the hardware sometimes gets funky, and as a result, things that we swear were one way actually were, but because there's a glitch, now they're a new way.
So that's an alternate reality sort of theory.
No.
We're not in reality. It's all simulated.
Sort of, but it's not. It's different than the multi-universe theory.
Right.
It's Plato's cave.
Yeah.
We're staring at fire and whatever. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so that is one of her explanations for this. This is obviously disputable because, if we were living in a simulation, wouldn't those that are running the simulation just, you think of your computer hard drive right now and something happens, like on your iPhone or something, there's an error on your iPhone, mm-hmm. and you go to your backup, mm-hmm. the backup for the previous version. You would just go back to that version. Nothing's different, really. You wouldn't even notice, right? If we were in the Matrix and there was a glitch, those that are running the Matrix would say, oh shit, go to the backup file, and we would just revert back to the backup file without even realizing it.
Right. Why are the things remaining in the changed version?
Right.
When so many people are now aware of that change.
The whole point of the Matrix is for you not to realize you're in the Matrix.
Right. But I guess that makes me think of some of the examples that are really super minor things that maybe, the simulators or whatever, the controllers of the Matrix thought people wouldn't notice.
Yeah,
not the Mandela example. I mean, that's pretty...
But now that the people were entertaining this,
I know it's like it's actually
now
possible.
that the people in the Matrix that are running the Matrix realize that us within the Matrix realize it. Don't you think they'd correct the problem?
Yeah, yeah.
They'd have an ultimate reset or they could just be frisky motherfuckers, and they're like, let's just make them sweat.
Let them think they're smart.
But yeah,
like they got it figured out.
Yeah, the whole point of the Matrix is to not realize you're in the Matrix.
Right.
The other theory that I really think would be fun to get into is the theory of multiple/alternate universes,
right.
which is an actual theory in metaphysics
mm-hmm.
and quantum physics. This type of theory can't obviously be proven, but the many world theory has sort of gained steam. When it was first introduced, it was obviously scoffed at. Like,
right.
No, this is ridiculous. But now that we're understanding the complete, for lack of a better way to put it, the gravity of space and time and physics and quantum physics. These things can't, although we're not necessarily buying into them, they can't be dismissed as easily as they were when they were first theorized.
Right.
So basically, to give you a broad overview of the many worlds theory, imagine for a second that you are at a fork in the road of your life in terms of making a choice, like a dilemma of some sort, and you decide to do the action one way.
Mm-hmm.
In the alternate universe, or one of the alternate universes, you went the other. And there's a reality that is now being played based on that choice.
Right.
And every single choice people make, there's a reality in which they made the other choice infinitely.
Right.
It just
so it's
keeps
infinite
going
possibilities.
on. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So no matter what, there is a version of you that didn't marry me,
right.
which you probably want that version. There's a version of you that we don't have our child. There's a version of us that doesn't have a podcast. There's a version of us that we didn't choose this episode to cover. We chose something else.
Yep.
So it just keeps spawning into infinite amount of universes, and we're just talking about us.
Oh, right. This is multiplied by every person.
Everyone.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so we're talking trillions upon trillions of different universes out there. The theory now, when it comes to Mandela Effect, that how we merge these things together, is that somehow the residual effects of, say, Nelson Mandela dying in the 80s bled into this universe, or our consciousness from that universe in which Nelson Mandela died in prison, we somehow have access to that. It crept and threaded over into this universe.
Yeah, how would that happen?
I don't know.
And it's like, with the exception of that and maybe the Kennedy assassination, which are significant events and, center on historical figures, but all the other random things that are like spellings of brand names or logos or stuff like that. Why would those things be the things that we remember differently?
I don't know. And that is why this is so easily dismissive for me, because it's all centered around stuff like pop culture.
Yeah. Why wouldn't it happen for personal, like from personal recollection? Like, why is it always shared? Like, why wouldn't...
Right.
You know what I mean?
Well, I think that's what makes it a phenomenon, because
I guess
it is shared. But
and I guess in that theory, it would affect everyone. People wouldn't have their own personal recollection of something happening differently, because if it's a parallel universe theory, it would have affected everyone in that in our universe.
Well,
it's a butterfly effect type thing.
Sort of. You can say things like, imagine if this was personal to you, right? I don't know if Nelson Mandela has children. Right. But let's say, for the sake of argument, there was a historical figure that died, and there's a dispute on when he or she died based on the Mandela Effect. And let's presuppose for a second that person had children. Now, let's put that aside for a second. Imagine we had personal Mandela effects where you swear your uncle died at some point, and now you find out, no, he died at a different point, or he's still alive. Bringing it back to that historical figure who has children. Imagine if Nelson Mandela had children. That child could say, no,
yeah,
guys.
How are they experiencing this? Like, what is their response?
That's what I'm saying. Right? Wouldn't you trust the people that are closest? We don't even need to use the children. We can use the wife.
Yeah.
Right? Why isn't the wife saying, I swear you died?
Right. How do they reconcile that? Like, how would that even appear in your life?
I don't know. And I think what happens is, once these false memories or these ideas gain steam, people just gravitate towards them, right? So if I say to you, look, I feel that you and I have a good bullshit meter, and when we hear someone talk, although it could be super articulate, it could be super sound in terms of how it's structured, we can say, yeah, something's not right there, but we don't say it. We don't say, no, that's not quite right, especially if they say it with such conviction, right? And I think that's a psychological sort of disposition there, where people say something with such accuracy, such clarity, such confidence, that we say, oh, this person must know what he's talking about.
Yeah, you assume that they know something that you don't.
Right. So if someone articulates it very well, hey, Nelson Mandela died in the 80s. I remember this. I was there. I could see. I swear to God, I can spell out all the events, how people were lined up in the, was it a congression? How people were lined up there, how people were memorializing him with the flag and the casket and stuff. I would definitely say, okay, you are saying this with such detail.
Right. But that's interesting because I know one of the kind of phenomenon of the mind is that when people, even when like in criminal justice context, when someone has an eyewitness, it's well documented that eyewitness testimony is often
faulty,
very inaccurate.
Very.
And people, they say with absolute fact, and I think it's not like they're lying. They genuinely believe that this is what they saw, but there's been lots of studies and experiments that look at that and prove that you think you saw one thing, but it's not. Like your mind has a way of filling in the blanks. Like if you miss a detail in something that you're witnessing, even if it's firsthand witnessing, your brain like cannot actually process every single detail of what's going on. And so it automatically fills in those details for you. And they're often not accurate, but people swear that that's what they saw. We have such a tendency to kind of like just trust that instinct, even though we really don't know what we're talking about.
Right. And our brain sort of fills in the gap with other things surrounding it. So if you remember how your room was set up when you were a kid, I'm sure you remember how, in a vague sense, what was set up. But if I said, well, what color were your sheets? You'd probably not have that accurate, but something else that might have been a color surrounding it that you swear you remember, you'll now apply to these sheets.
Right.
And say, no, I swear it was green.
Right. Or maybe I had green sheets in my dorm room at college,
sure,
but not my childhood bed. And so it kind of like transfers that. Right. It like transfers that memory.
Right.
Right. Yep.
So there was a psychology experiment. This is more on the lines of you having the false memory. There was a psychology experiment. There was, the space shuttle that blew up as soon as it took off. It was like this huge.
Was it the Challenger?
No, is that what it was? I don't know. There was a mission to space, and the space shuttle, I think it was in the 80s, went up and it blew up.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So there was a psychology professor that said almost immediately after, like the day after in a psychology class, I want you guys to describe where you were, what you were doing, XYZ. And there was one student in particular that said, oh, I'm just sort of finding out about this now. And you have to, this is before the internet. I was pretty much at my house studying. I wasn't doing anything. I didn't even realize it. 4 years later, the psychology professor said, okay, remember this event? Describe what you were doing. And that same student was, I remember watching it. I remember being around my friends. I remember immediately calling my parents and saying, are you watching this? Can you believe this? Turns out none of that happened. Yeah. But she swears it did.
Yep. So, I think that's probably similar to the Mandela instance of people. I think it kind of perpetuates by you hear someone else say that they remember, like you were saying before, you kind of default to the person who thinks that they remember in such detail. And you think, oh, I don't really remember that, but it's probably true if this person remembers it so vividly. Like, how could that not have happened? And I think that narrative probably has something to do with it, that kind of snowballs over time and seeps into people's brains, and it becomes like this alternate reality that you think must have happened.
Yeah, and, touching back to Nelson Mandela, apparently there was a political prisoner that was fighting for the same thing that Nelson Mandela was, that did die in that time span, but he was almost or just as, and that might be giving him too much credit, forgive me, I don't know his name, but he was sort of at the same status as Nelson Mandela,
fighting alongside,
and he died. So I
maybe
think
Mandela
applied that,
right. Maybe he was even in the headlines in some cases. Like maybe it was something like Mandela's comrade or whatever, and that kind of got conflated, and people assumed that it was Mandela himself.
Yeah, and I think this goes for. I think the reason why people link this to conspiracy theories is because it's sort of the same line of theory, right? So when it comes to conspiracies, there has to be someone around it, right? There has to be someone orchestrating it, or a group of people, orchestrating this. We're talking about something, and I think of the two theories or the two explanations, one being the Matrix, the other one being the multiple universe or the alternate reality. The latter holds a little bit more weight than the Matrix, right?
Yeah.
I think the reason why people gravitate towards these things is because it's so much more entertaining than, oh, I just fucking misremembered.
Right. Yeah.
You know? And to think that there is someone orchestrating these things, if we're going to use the Matrix example, to think that someone is orchestrating these things and, you know, fucking with you pretty much, that's, in a way, it's pretty, I don't know, it's pretty egotistical, right? That because we have to admit that there are people that remember it as it's recorded.
Right.
Right. There are
It's
people,
not universal.
Right.
It's not universal misremembering. It's just mass misremembering. Yeah.
So there are people in the world that say, no, man, Mandela has been alive. I remember voting for him to be president or whatever their democratic process is to vote in a president, I imagine, by vote. I remember doing this. Or there are people, I remember having conversations, or his family, I remember celebrating whatever holiday with him, guys. He's been alive. It's very egotistical and sort of presumptuous to say, no, I know better than you, person that knew him well, and me.
And who has evidence to support that that's really what happened.
You are part of the glitch.
Right. And if you can't find the evidence, like all the people who remember so vividly, like the eulogy that was given or any of the memorial services would have been, I mean, I know it was the 80s, but there was still recording technology. Like it would have been recorded in some fashion.
Right.
And those newspaper clippings of all the headlines that people claim they remember reading so vividly, how is there zero evidence of any of that?
Well, they say they scrub it.
Right. That's the conspiracy, is that. But again.
No, if we're in an alternate universe.
Oh, in the Matrix. Okay.
In the Matrix, they scrub it. In the alternate universe, it's just gone.
It didn't exist. It doesn't exist because it never happened.
Right.
Yeah.
You can't find that material.
Gotcha.
And people say the same thing about Tiananmen Square, where the tank goes up to the protester.
Yeah.
And it turns, in reality, he did not run him over.
Run over. Yeah. But that's the same thing. I'm like, like you said, there was someone very similar to Nelson Mandela who did die in prison. I feel like maybe there was a similar type of event like Tiananmen Square where someone did get run over by a tank.
There was a Buddhist monk that set himself on fire.
So there's something similar. I'm saying, like, I think that that's a phenomenon of the brain, that it just kind of merges these two memories that are similar and creates something that didn't really happen and then gets snowballed by people talking about it
and reinforcing it, and again saying it with such conviction
that it makes you think that it really happened.
This must have happened because this person's very passionate about how it happened. And again, there's something very entertaining and compelling to those thoughts, because it's boring just to say, I don't know what I'm talking about.
Right.
It's boring to say, oh, I remembered it wrong, because there's something in your mind that's really pushing you to say, no, this happened this way. And the problem is that we as human beings, we are faulty creatures. We're not infallible, right? Especially our memories are very faulty, as you already mentioned. So why is it that we cling on to these notions of I know better than recorded history? You know, I know better than how these books have been published for years. My memory is much more reliable than these multitude of things that have recorded and documented this history. All those must be from the Matrix or, residual shit from the other universes, because I think...
Right. There's got to be some explanation. It can't possibly be that I'm mistaken.
I'm remembering
it wrong.
Right.
So I know we're going to talk about examples in the second half. So there is one in particular, the only one of all of the examples I've seen. I think all the examples I've seen can kind of be explained by those types of things, like two similar events or two similar people getting mixed up or kind of mushed together to create a new memory, or just like simple things that are misspelled or mispronounced or whatever. I think that there's a lot of explanations for those, but there is one in particular that I personally vividly remember. It's like, there's one that just gets me. I cannot explain.
I know where you're going with that, but I do want to hold it.
Yeah, let's hold it.
But to wrap a bow on this part, the reason why I think people remember things differently than how they happened is because you can attribute it to a lot of things, like we already mentioned, not residual from another universe, but there are aspects of the moment in time in your memory that sort of bleed over. We talked about the green sheets. People swear that Sarah Palin said, I can see Russia from my house, which she didn't. She said there are parts of Alaska that I can see Russia. And she said Alaska is my home or something,
right?
Which is true.
Well, that's like a game of telephone. Almost,
right.
It gets repeated and slightly changed until it's into this. Yeah.
Bill Gates, people swear he said, I invented the internet. He didn't. He came with the infrastructure to allow the internet to happen.
Sure.
So people say, oh, he said he invented it. No, he never said that.
Yeah.
And so when you have these things that are sort of misconstrued and communicated, there's bound to be that telephone effect that you mentioned. But all right, so that is pretty much the meat and potatoes and the nuts and bones when it comes to the Mandela Effect. Just to give a broad overview.
Yeah, I think we'll expand on each theory, I think, when we give the examples of which category of the theory we think that they fall into how they might be explained.
The fun stuff is coming up after the break, so hang tight. All right, so as I mentioned, most of these, if not all of them, are pop culture related.
Yep.
Of the list that you may have or on the top of your dome, I have an entire list. Which one do you think will blow people's minds the most?
I mean, I have the one that blows my mind the most.
You previewed that already. So
yeah. You want to start with that one?
Yeah.
Okay. So I remember before I had ever heard of the Mandela Effect, so you actually introduced it to me, and I remember you came up to me and you said, hey, so you remember that movie with the genie or whatever? And I was like, oh yeah, the one with Sinbad. And you're like, yeah, it never existed.
Right.
I'm like, yeah, Shazam. The movie with Sinbad, he played a genie. Like, and I was so frustrated and angry at you for telling me that it didn't exist, because I vividly remember, and to the point where I don't know Sinbad from literally anything else. Like,
I do.
I can't recall seeing him in other.
First Kid.
I can't. Okay, yeah, I know that movie, but I guess whenever I think of Sinbad, even like up until you pointed this out to me, that was my image of Sinbad as a genie in that movie. Like, it completely blew my mind, because it's also not something that I've talked to people about. Like, we talked earlier about sort of like that telephone effect of people just, misrepresenting or misspeaking or misquoting someone, and it kind of snowballs and turns into something different. This isn't like that. Like, it's a straight up, like, I have this image in my head and I can't understand where that might have come from.
There are Reddit threads with people swearing that they've seen this movie and they outline the entire fucking plot.
So they remember actually what the whole movie...
They remember the entire thing, like actual vivid descriptions of portions in the movie.
That's crazy. See, I don't remember the movie plot that vividly, but so...
The easiest explanation is Kazam.
Yes, that's what I was going to say. We talked earlier about like how Nelson Mandela had someone close to him in his fight that did die in prison, so maybe people got that confused.
Right.
That's the only thing I can imagine is the Kazam thing, because there was a movie about a genie called Kazam, but the genie was played by Shaq.
Right.
So I can kind of see that, but I keep going back to the whole when you said that to me, I could not remember Sinbad from anything else. Like, that's my only memory of him. So how would that happen? Like, I know Shaq from plenty of other things, obviously. It's not just related to the movie where he played a genie. So that one just, it's like I said, it's not something that it got repeated and got twisted, or it's like I was mispronouncing something. Like there's some things I can kind of, I think, can be explained by it doesn't follow your normal speech or logic in how it's pronounced, so people are surprised when it's spelled or pronounced differently.
Right.
This is not like that.
Right.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's one of those things that I think the obvious explanation is that Kazam sort of bled into other people's memories to sort of misconstrue the Sinbad movie.
But why Sinbad?
I don't know. I don't know why he's related to this, because there's not even a cartoon where he voices a genie.
Right. I was going to ask, has he ever played a genie in any aspect?
He gets pissed when he's asked about this.
Yeah. It's
he
crazy.
Said it's never happened.
He was never in a commercial as a genie or like...
Well... Yes, because they were ripping on the Mandela
Effect. Of course,
yes.
Yeah. I mean, originally.
No.
Like there's no other role he played that could...
Nothing.
Bleed into it.
Nothing.
It's so weird. That's so random.
Yep. So that is the one that blows people's minds the most, is they swear they remember a movie called Shazam in which Sinbad played a genie in the 90s. They swear it happened. Again, the most likely explanation is they get it confused with Kazam.
But how could...
It's also a genie movie.
Yes, but how could so many people confuse it in the same way?
I don't know.
With the actor and the movie title.
Yeah, I don't know. I have no idea.
Like, when I ask people about this, it's the same thing. Like, you didn't lead me to it when you asked me. I was like, oh yeah, the movie with Sinbad, it was called Shazam.
Right.
Like I knew those two things right off the top of my head.
Right.
And it's like that for almost everyone that I talk to.
Well, there's another one, and I think when I told you about this, you were more upset about this, and we previewed it on the previous episode. So back in the day, and this is how I tell everyone else about it, and they respond, yeah. So back in the day when you have your Disney VHS cassette, it's in that plush cassette tape, and you put it in and the movie starts, and after the previews and the trailers and the thank you for getting this video, whatnot, you see the blue Disney screen with the castle, and Tinkerbell comes around the castle, spells out Disney or Walt Disney or whatever with her wand and dots the I, and it sparkles. Mm-hmm. It flashes. Or some people remember it as she goes around the castle, writes the name, tries the dot the I. It doesn't work. So she smashes, or it starts hitting her wand, and then it works, and then she dots the I.
That's so specific.
That never happened.
She never was in it at all.
Neither
like
of
Tinkerbell,
those have ever happened.
Tinkerbell doesn't
Not
appear
once. Nope.
At all. Yeah,
nope.
That one does blow my mind, because I also have I can vividly remember that, and I feel like that one though, I don't know. The Shazam one is still like, because there's literally no leading at all. It's like off the top of my head, I'm like, yeah, Shazam, Sinbad. Like,
yeah,
so,
I got to be honest. This one, I felt more of a memory towards than Shazam.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
And when I told you, you said, no, that happened. I remember it. And we called your dad.
Yeah.
And he described the same thing.
Yep.
And we said, no, this never happened.
I think my brother did too.
There's an entire website dedicated to the beginning of Disney, all the different variations of the castle.
Yep.
And she is not in any of them.
That's crazy.
The closest thing she's in is Disney DVD, but it's not the castle or anything. It's just Disney and the words DVD spin, and she comes out. But she doesn't write anything with her wand or anything. That's the closest thing. But people swear this was from the VHS cassettes.
Yeah, well, I mean, I can picture Tinkerbell doing that.
Right.
I don't remember the wand shaking and then dotting the I.
That's just a variant of it that some people remember. The most common one is she comes around the castle and she spells it out and dots the I. And I remember, for some reason, her dotting the I in Disney, and it's like a gold...
And then she's like flying right above it
it's like
for a
gold,
second.
Psh.
Yeah.
Never happened.
Has she done anything similar? Maybe it wasn't in the intro right there.
So
like
yes, there is something similar, but the reason why maybe this explains it a little bit. In Disneyland or in Disney World, there's a black and white video of her coming around the actual castle
I've
and
never seen
writing
that.
Disneyland or Disney World, but it's all in black and white. I specifically remember the blue screen.
Right. I don't recall ever seeing a black and white version.
When you popped in the VHS tapes, it would start from the top
Yes.
and glow down.
Yes.
That's the castle.
Gradually.
And she would come around.
Yep.
That's what I remember.
Yeah, that one's
Never
weird
happened.
too. I know. So those are the two that have always gotten me. Like, I feel like I can kind of, even though we're kind of speculating about how those might be explained, I still can't really wrap my head around how neither of those things can have ever happened.
Right.
I think all the other ones I can kind of understand how they've been misinterpreted or misremembered or misrepresented or whatever. But those two blow my mind.
Okay, so the next one, most of these have to do with movies. Like I said, pop culture. So when you think of the classic Star Wars line, one of the most quoted lines, if it's not "May the Force be with you," the most classic and the most common quoted line is,
Luke, I am your father.
well, turns out,
He told me you killed him.
No, I am your father.
never says ever, Luke, I am your father. Ever. And people swear that they've heard that.
Yeah.
And I think the reason why people swear that they've heard that is because so many other things
Yes.
have quoted it that way.
Exactly. I feel like it's less that you vividly remember the actual like original film stating that line
Right.
word for word than you remember all the times that you've heard it recited incorrectly.
Right.
I think there's one very similar to that is Forrest Gump.
Yep. I have that on the
Yeah.
list.
And it's the same kind of thing. And I think the reason why people get that wrong is, you know, the famous line from Forrest Gump is,
Life's like a box of chocolates.
right.
And he
And
says life was.
Right.
like a
And I
box of
think
chocolates.
that's such an easy one to mess up because it's very subtle. I mean, even
Right.
like you're saying, he might even use life's instead of life is or life was. So it's very subtle. And
No,
it's
it's clear. It's a clear quote.
okay. But I'm saying when you repeat it, it's easy
Right,
to
right,
kind of
right.
like blend the words together. And I think grammatically it makes sense to say life is because then he says, you never know what you're going to get. And so that if you say life was like a box of chocolates, so you're talking about past tense.
Well,
And the rest of the sentence doesn't really imply past tense. So that one I feel like is very easily explained.
Well, here's the thing. So he was saying, and I don't mean to get into specifics here, but he was saying about his mom. My mama used to say
Right.
life was like a box of chocolates. In the clip of his mom actually saying it, she says life is like a box
Oh,
of
well,
chocolates.
there you go.
And
okay.
on the back, I'm looking at it right now. On the back of the VHS sleeve, it says, quote, life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what
Oh,
you're gonna
okay.
get.
So there's a lot of explanations for
Yes.
that. Okay.
Yes.
So it's
So
almost like Tom
people-
Hanks like messed up the line.
Well, no, people that believe in the Mandela Effect believe when they see the back of the VHS, they say, oh, they forgot
It used to
something.
be-
They didn't wipe this clean. See, this is proof.
Right.
This is proof of what
Right.
it's supposed to be.
Okay. Yeah, that's such a huge stretch. Or he
Um,
just misspoke the line and they left it in because it was otherwise a great moment in the movie.
Yep. There are more, and we can get into the subtle ones. When you think of Mr. Rogers, what does he say? What does he say? What's the first thing he says? You don't know? You never
I don't
watched
remember.
Mr. Okay.
I'm just drawing
People
a blank.
say it's a beautiful day in the neighborhood.
Oh, yeah.
No.
Okay.
It's a beautiful day in this neighborhood.
Okay. Again, that's such a subtle thing.
But
I don't
people,
think
it's so widespread that it's a beautiful day in the neighborhood.
I think that flows better. I think that just like I don't really take much stock into those kind of examples.
Sex and the City, that's what it's
I
called.
know.
But people swear it was Sex in the City.
Again, I feel like that's just like a very subtle, minor grammatical thing.
Okay. I don't have a stake in either of
Like,
those
I just
races.
feel like when you're watching a movie like that, or you're like, are you really, really hyper focusing on those little words in the title? Like, I just don't think you are until you hear it's different, or it could be different than what you thought it was, and you go back and listen or go back and watch again, and then you feel like you had a different memory of it. But I don't feel like that's something people pay all that much attention to, enough to be able to swear by the fact that the reality was different. Like, I feel like that's a stretch.
Here's another one. Snow White.
Yeah.
The Queen.
Yep.
It's, everyone thinks it's mirror on the wall. It's not. It's magic mirror on the wall. Yep.
I feel like that's another one that I obviously watched that movie when I was a kid. I can't really remember seeing that scene or that line to the extent where I would feel so convicted that it was mirror. I've heard it so many times, though, said that way, that surprises me too. But it's not because I swear that it was that way in the movie. It's just because it's been repeated that way.
A lot of people must think that these guys that run the Matrix have it out for Disney.
Right? I know.
They just...
It's true.
Here's another one. I Love Lucy.
Mm-hmm.
Ricky Ricardo.
Mm-hmm.
The husband.
Yeah.
Can you think of any quotes that he would say to Lucy?
Honey, I'm home?
No.
What did he say?
People swear he says, Lucy, you have some splaining to do.
Oh, yeah.
Never. He's never said that.
Yeah, that sounds familiar to me.
Never. But there are cartoons and there are like that, parody Lucy. Right. And there are people that parody on SNL or whatever. Yeah. And they say that line.
And people assume that it was from the original.
Right. Yeah. And they assume that they swear they've heard or seen it.
Say it.
And when Lucy would do something funny or stupid or whatever, and he would say it, he's never, ever said it. Yeah.
I hadn't heard that one.
Yep.
I chalked that up too, to me just hearing other people say it in that voice and in the, as a parody.
Do you have any more?
Well, I think another like non-Disney, but now getting into like misspellings and stuff. So Looney Tunes.
Yeah.
That's another one that, so everyone swears that it was spelled, that tunes was Toons. It's actually Tunes.
Well, you think because of cartoons.
Exactly. So that's another one where I'm like, as you're watching it, are you really paying that much attention to the spelling of the words when it comes up at the beginning of the show? No, I think you just, when someone asks you, how do you spell Looney Tunes, you assume that it's Toons because of the word cartoon, and loony has two O's. So it's like, again, I feel like that's not one that you can really say with a lot of conviction that you're 100% sure it used to be different. I think that's just a mistake or an assumption.
Snow White.
Yeah.
What are in the first song that dwarves sing, what do they sing?
Hi ho.
Yeah. How's it go? Yeah.
It's home from work we go.
Really? That's how you remember it?
Yeah.
That's the correct way, apparently. I've always remembered it as hi ho, it's off to work we go.
No, they're going home.
Yes, I know. I've always thought it was off to work we go.
Well, there you go. We just disproved the Mandela Effect is not a real thing because I remember it the right way.
So when I heard it, I said, that makes sense. They're happy they're going home after work. But I always thought they were happy to go to work.
Maybe it's not both?
No. It's only home from work we go.
Yeah, that's how I remember
That sounds so wrong. It's off to
first
work
thing that
we
came
go.
To my mind.
Sounds so right. It just fits for me. That sounds like it's the way it ought to be.
I guess I could see that, but I remember it the other way.
Fucking Disney. Here's another one. Sword in the Stone.
Yeah.
Where is it? Where's the sword?
In a stone.
It's in an anvil. Yep.
It's called the sword.
I know, but it's in an actual anvil.
Well, I guess that's still made of stone, but I think I'm also so I wonder how it is at Disney where they have one, or at least they did when I was a kid and I went to Disney, and they have you can go up and you try to get the sword out of the stone, and I'm sure it's like one in every like 10,000 people maybe it actually comes out and you win something. It's totally random, but they make you think it's based on your strength to get the sword out of the stone. So, but I think that was an actual stone, like a rock, when I went to Disney.
Yeah, I'm looking at pictures of the kid. I maybe watched this once. It was probably one of the worst Disney films. Anyway, he's pulling it out, and it's in an anvil, not a stone.
Well, we need our Disney friends to weigh in.
Why would it be an anvil?
I don't know.
That doesn't make any sense. Whatever.
I guess because like if it's on display, I don't know. That's weird. But again, I feel like that's not a movie that I remember that vividly. I just assumed it was a rock or a stone by the name of by the title of the movie.
You wouldn't think it's
so I don't think that's a Mandela Effect
metal.
thing. Yeah. Oh, that's true. Yeah. I don't think that's a Mandela Effect thing.
Okay. People disagree. All right. Fruit of the Loom.
Yeah.
There is and there has never been a cornucopia in the Fruit of the Loom logo.
We had one of our listeners commented on that, and that one blew my mind because I hadn't heard that before. And I can't wrap my head around that one. I can vividly picture the logo with a cornucopia
in the background.
Yeah, and why would you think that there was if there wasn't?
I don't know. So there is this YouTube channel that dug into the entire history up to the beginning of Fruit of the Loom with the copyright request for the logo. Never included a cornucopia.
That's one of those things too that like if you said, I think it depends on how you present these questions to people too. If you said, did the Fruit of the Loom logo have a cornucopia?
They'll say, of course.
They'll say yes. I think if you say, can you describe the Fruit of the Loom logo to me? I think that's more interesting to hear what people say, because then that's like a Sinbad thing. How I completely finished it. I didn't need you to lead me there at all. I think that's more telling when someone can, on their own describe it. And if everyone does that, if a large group of people all describe it in the same way, but it's incorrect, that is more fascinating to me than if you just make it like a yes or no. Do you remember this?
Okay, well let's try that, because I don't
I just did it with the Seven Dwarfs thing. You didn't lead me on to that song.
No,
at all.
Remember the Frosty cartoon, the Christmas movie? Okay.
Vaguely.
If you can describe what he was wearing, what was he wearing?
I mean, I'm gonna go by the song.
Sure. Or just
a hat
from the cartoon. Yeah, he was wearing a hat.
Buttons made of coal.
Sure.
A scarf.
Yeah. That's it?
And a pipe. A corncob pipe.
Sure. Is that it?
Yeah.
He was never wearing a scarf. Yeah.
So that's
people
something...
swear that he was wearing a red scarf.
So again, red scarf. Okay, but I also think that's an easy transfer from every time I built a snowman when I was a kid, we put a scarf on it.
Or remember that that movie, it was a live action movie, and Michael Keaton was the voice of a snowman. It was the kid's dad. And his soul, it was like a Disney movie. His soul sort of transferred into this snowman.
Vaguely.
I think he was wearing a red scarf or a scarf at all.
It's possible. I just think it's so common for people to give snowmen a scarf.
Yeah, he was not wearing a red scarf. He did have a corncob pipe.
Well, I guess when you think of the song, is there a scarf in the song?
No.
Well, then that makes sense.
Right,
that he would have been.
People swear they remember him with the red scarf.
Yeah, I don't remember it vividly enough to argue that.
And one of your favorites and lamest Christmas movies ever, Christmas with the Cranks.
It's
the
so
Frosties
funny.
they put up have scarves.
Yeah, because that's what I'm saying. Like most times when you build a snowman, you put a scarf on it.
When we get closer to Christmas, we have to have a tournament for the best Christmas movie.
Oh, yeah. That'll be a good one.
And I promise you, Christmas with the Cranks will be a first round knockout.
No.
I promise you it will be.
Anyway.
Do you have any others? I have a bunch.
Okay, we'll just keep going.
Okay. Monopoly Man. Rich Uncle Pennybags.
That's a good one.
Never had a monocle. Ever.
And that one, I think, that one also blew my mind at first when I first heard that. But I think that one's easily explained by
Ace Ventura?
Mr. Peanut.
And Ace Ventura.
What about Ace Ventura?
You never saw Ace Ventura?
I have. But
so the first one when he's like, and you must be the Monopoly guy.
Oh, yeah.
He was
So that was
holding
an
a monocle.
Incorrect transfer of that image.
It could have been.
Yeah. Because I think people mesh together the Monopoly Man and Mr. Peanut because otherwise they're similar in their attire. Like Mr. Peanut has the top hat, the cane. It's like the same kind of thing. And he does have a monocle. So I think people just kind of in our brains, we mesh those two images and assume that he also has a monocle.
A listener of ours, a good friend of mine, submitted this one. C-3PO's leg in the first Star Wars was silver.
I think that's just something I never noticed. I wasn't a big enough Star Wars fan growing up to have noticed that. You just pointed that out to me like 2 years ago.
So people swear it was all gold or bronze or whatever. They poke fun of it in the first, what is it, the Return of the Jedi or not Return of the Jedi?
I can't remember which one, but I remember
the seventh one.
The
newest, oldest new one, I guess you could say. When he's like, you probably didn't recognize me with this red arm. They poke fun at it. And, I don't know. There are action figures with him with the silver leg from back in the day.
Again, I think that's something you probably just didn't notice because it's kind of insignificant, right? Like it's not pointed out. There's no attention drawn to it. There's no reason for it. And I think you just you imagine him as being all gold. Like you don't.
You figure with the lighting too, because a lot of that stuff is in a desert.
Yeah.
So the reflection off of
he's
sand
metal
into a silver piece might darken the silver.
Yeah, I just don't think it was super obvious.
Yeah. I mean, they definitely didn't highlight it.
Right.
So
why would you remember that?
Right. And I think that was why they did the red arm.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
They drew attention to it.
Yeah.
Curious George.
Yeah.
Does not have a tail. Blew my mind.
Yeah. Well, I think that's because people picture
a monkey or an orangutan, or not orangutan,
it's a chimp,
chimpanzee. Yeah.
But when that, like the generic image of a monkey, I think people picture them swinging, including hanging from their tails.
Yeah.
Which isn't always accurate, but I think it's in your mind. And even like I think of what are the little like red toy, like the hanging monkeys that you can attach to each other,
like the plastic things.
Yeah, they have tails and you hang them from. So like I feel like it's just kind of like a general image of a monkey that people have projected on Curious George.
Speaking of tails, remember and again Disney, the tugboat Mickey Mouse, black and white.
Yeah,
it's the most classic thing.
They still show it at the beginning of Disney movies now.
Right, has a tail in that.
Yeah, I can't picture it.
Mickey no longer has a tail, so they think there's some sort of cross fucking.
It couldn't just be a advancement or an adaptation in the animation.
Of course it can be.
Yeah,
of course that's what it is.
Right.
But people believe that George's tail went to Mickey. They
my
messed
God.
it up. They fucked up.
Oh my God.
More pop culture. Silence of the Lambs. Have you ever seen Silence of the Lambs?
Mm-mm.
Okay. So Hannibal Lecter would say, "Hello, Clarice."
Okay. Yep.
Never said it.
Yeah.
Never said. He said, "Good evening, Clarice."
Yeah. I feel like, again, that's just something that someone misquotes it enough times that I think people remember the misquoting of it more than they remember it in the original movie.
But people swear
that in the original
that he said it.
Yeah.
In Silence of the Lambs.
I think because you just get so sure because you hear it over and over and over again that you can't think, how could all of these people have been wrong all these years?
From parodies or something like that.
That's what I mean, though.
Yeah.
Like you've heard it in this other way that you just can't wrap your head around the fact that everybody has been wrong all this time.
Shatner's Star Trek.
Okay.
When you hear Star Trek, what do you think of? A memorable quote. Do you have any that comes to mind?
No.
Beat me up, Scotty.
Okay, yes.
Never said it. No one's ever said it. No one has ever said that in Shatner's Star Trek.
So where did that come from?
Don't know.
Anything similar?
No fucking idea. But he's never ever said, "Beam me up, Scotty."
Did he say a similar line?
Nope.
That one's random.
Yep.
Okay, I do know that.
As far as I know, in my research,
yeah,
it's never been said.
That must be like someone parodied it or parodied.
Yep,
it.
there you
go. And it stuck.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's crazy. I don't know really anything about Star Trek except maybe that line.
Yep. Here's another one. Here's a good one. Back to Disney. Woody.
From Toy Story?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You pull the string.
Yeah.
There's a
snake in my boot.
He says in the first Toy Story, "There's a snake in my boots."
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. And people say, no.
Again, I think that's just, you just misheard it.
No, because the sequels, he says there's a snake in my boot.
Well, if you're talking about one snake, how can it be in both boots?
I don't know. I think it was a mistake by Disney. But
Right,
people
but, like-
that buy into this believe, oh no, oh, we got him.
No, you just hear what makes sense in your head
Right.
that one snake would be in one single boot.
Yep. Watch Toy Story 1. Everyone has Disney Plus. Watch Toy Story 1.
Yeah.
And when he's all sad and he's pulling his string, there's a snake in my boots.
Okay.
It's plural. I've watched it. I verified this. E.T. What's the E.T. line that you think is most memorable?
E.T. phone home?
Nope. E.T. home phone.
Okay. Again, that's not one that you're illustrating that I'm a little bit younger than you in all of these examples.
But people
because
have the same reaction. People
Yeah.
say, no, it was E.T.
But again,
phone home.
I remember
Why
that.
would you home phone?
Yeah, that's weird. Again, I think your brain goes to what makes more sense. If there's a line that's a little bit funky, a little bit grammatically incorrect, or has you know what I mean? I feel like your brain automatically kind of switches it around or makes it make more sense to you. And I think if enough people do that and then repeat it over and over, it sticks.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't really remember it that vividly from the movie itself. I just remember knowing that's a classic line.
Randy Jackson in American Idol.
Yeah.
When it first happened, there's a quote that he said when saying no to a contestant.
That's a no for me, dog.
Never said it. That's going to be a no for me, dog. Never said it.
Did he say, that's a no from me,
Nothing
dog?
even close. Never.
Well, he said dog all the time.
Yes, but there was never a thing where he's like, that's a no for me, dog, or that's going to be a no for me, dog. Nope.
Did
Never
he ever
said
say it without the dog? Like,
I
just
don't know.
that's a no from me?
I don't know.
So that's where I feel like that's because he probably said those two
But
things.
they all sort of say that.
But that's what I mean. So because he said dog all the time, that was like his signature word. And then anytime he said that's a no from me,
They
I mean, I
filled
can
in the
totally
blanks.
see how people just kind of
Or he
assume
might
that he
have
said
said
those
it's going to
things
be a
together.
no.
Yeah, like any variation. That one that doesn't really surprise me. I feel like that can be easily explained.
All right, I was saving this one because I know when you were growing up, you loved to play games with your family and friends. So Uno, okay?
Savage.
You have one card left in Uno, okay? And you can't play it. What do you do?
If you can't play the last card,
Yes.
you draw
And
a
it's
card.
your turn.
You have to draw.
Nope.
Okay. What do you do?
This is the official rule of Uno, and it blew people's mind because they tweeted it. If you only have one card left and you cannot play it, you do not need to keep drawing instead.
So what do you do? Pass?
Skip. Yeah.
Wow. Well, that could have prevented a few childhood fights.
See, I chalk this one up of people just fucking up.
Right. People were just playing the game wrong.
Right.
But like, why did no one read? This is why every time we play a board game, I try to read the fucking directions and everyone's like, let's just play. We'll learn as we go.
Raymond.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I always want to read the directions. This is why.
So yeah, if you this might be blowing people's minds right now. If you're playing Uno and you have one card left and you can't play it, you don't have to do anything.
Oh my God. That makes me so mad.
Uno
all the
tweeted
times I've
this
had
out.
to do that where I've drawn like 20 cards.
People just keep drawing.
you have to draw
do
till you
not-
play. I always thought that was
I
a
think
rule
you
that
only
you
draw one.
Okay. I always thought the rule
People
was
keep going.
you have to play a card on your turn.
No.
Well, that sucks.
Yes. Crazy. A couple of more well-referenced one. Mona Lisa has a smile. People swear she didn't have a smile.
I thought that was kind of like the whole thing about the painting.
The whole thing about the painting is that her eyes follow you everywhere you go.
Well, that too, but I always thought there was something to the whole, like, she's beautiful even with a serious expression.
Yeah, no, there's a smile.
Is it subtle?
Let me make sure there's a smile because
I think it's subtle if it is.
yes, there's a subtle smile. Yes, thank God.
So it's not like she went from a frown to like a toothy grin.
No, people thought it was a straight face.
Yeah.
No smile. Apparently, she
still has a pretty, serious look about her,
Yep.
even with that slight, if it's a slight smile.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah.
Oscar Mayer.
Yeah.
It's Mayer, not Meyer.
That again, like how much attention are you really paying to the spelling of a brand of bologna? Like, or hot dogs.
Hot dogs.
They do bologna too.
Do they?
Yeah, I think
I've
so.
never had
Like
bologna
the
in
cold
my
cuts,
life.
like the pre-made cold.
Never had that shit in my life.
It's all the same shit. The hot dogs and the bologna. It's
Yeah,
the
but you
same
can
meat.
grill hot dogs.
Okay, that makes it better. You char away the grossness.
Yeah.
Okay.
Listen, in the summer, if I'm having a hot dog, it has to be burnt to shit.
You do the same thing with your marshmallows. I know.
Yes, of
I know.
course.
I know.
I need the crunch.
Anyway, we digress. Yeah, I feel like that's one that's like it's a reasonable spelling either way in how it's pronounced. And I feel like there are other words, like the first thing that comes to my mind when I see that word Meyer or Myers spelled
Right.
Meyer is like a Meyer lemon, which is spelled Meyer.
I would pronounce that mayor.
No, I would pronounce Mayer Mayer.
Okay,
Meyer is like a Meyer lemon.
sure. I guess. I don't know what that is, so that
It's
makes
just
sense
a type
to
of
you.
lemon. It's the only other thing that I know that word from, but I'm just saying it's a reasonable spelling of the pronunciation.
Okay. The one that takes everyone's breath away is the Berenstain Bears.
This
and
was like
not
the one that- yeah.
Berenstein.
This is the one that
Bears.
like blew up the Mandela effect,
Yes.
I feel like.
It is spelled Bearenstein, not EIN.
Mhm.
And people swear it was Berenstein Bears. You can hear. I remember getting the VHS tapes when I was a kid. I used to rent them at the library. The cartoons, and the theme song was "We Are the Berenstein Bears." And I swear to God, they said Steen, but I guess it's just me, like sort of, I guess, incorporating other Steens and Steins into it, and
Yeah.
maybe the bear aspect, like Berenstain, sort of flows better, and Berenstain.
Yeah, it does. Absolutely. That would be my explanation too. That one at first kind of like messed with me a little bit. And I'm like, I remembered it the same way you did. And Berenstain felt so weird
Yeah.
and foreign. Like that didn't feel like the right spelling or anything.
Right.
But the more I think about it, yeah, I mean, to say Berenstain sounds like a more like common name, common spelling, common pronunciation. But I also have heard when people are asked, so this is another example of asking people to just straight up tell me, how do you spell this book about the cartoon bears, whatever, and you don't lead into it at all. A lot of people also misspell the beginning of the word. They say Berenstein with bear, Bearenstein.
Isn't that how you spell it?
No.
I just
so.
spelt it that way.
I think it's Beren.
Is it?
I think
I thought
so.
it was
Double check.
BEAR. Oh,
Oh, so
shit.
you just proved my point. I'm pretty sure it's Beren.
Yeah, you're right.
STAN.
Well, I fucked that up.
Yeah.
Berenstein.
I didn't even catch it. Yeah.
Bears.
So the whole word is spelled differently than a lot of people assume. And I think it's a combination of those things. I think it's right because it's followed by the word bear. It's like a cutesy twist on the spelling to spell Berenstein, like bear,
right.
Bear, and then Steen instead of Stain because that's a way more common, like kind of last name pronunciation. So
Well,
I don't find this that like
people swear by
I know.
this. People are searching for old Berenstain Bears books, and I've seen people print photoshopped books saying, "I got them.
Yep.
I got
trying
it."
to make a buck.
Yeah, and stupid people will buy it, I guess. But yeah, it's Berenstain Bears. Couple more. How do you spell Fruit Loops?
I even know this one and I'm probably going to get it wrong. I think it's fruit, like regular fruit. Fruit.
Nope.
Damn it.
FROOTLOOPS.
I thought this was going to be like Looney Tunes
Nope.
and you would assume it was OO because loops is OO.
It is. But
Right.
both of
It's
them
actually regular
have
fruit.
the Fruit Loop cereal in it for the OO.
Right. That makes sense.
So, yep. Kit Kat, no dash.
Yeah. It's so funny. I noticed that I was at the store today and I was eyeing the Kit Kats. trying
Where's
to
the
think
one
of
with the dash?
Yeah, but I'm trying to think of if
Go
I remember
in the back
it.
and get me the one with the dash.
I'm trying to think if I remember it looking different than that.
I know you
And I can't.
fuckers have them.
I think that's just for some reason people just assume there would be a hyphen.
Yeah.
But
You would
there's
think.
no good reason.
Nope.
Like,
Last one, near and dear to my heart. I was a little freaked out by this. All right, so graduated with a degree in philosophy, so obviously the thinker statue is near and dear to me. It's actually, his name isn't the thinker, it's the poet, but for the sake of people knowing
He's
the
known as the
reference,
thinker,
it's the
yeah.
thinker. He's never had his fist on his chin.
I thought it was the opposite.
No, he has his open palm. I mean, the top of his hand on his chin. It's never his fist. And this fist is also, people remember it being on his forehead. It's neither. There's no fist on his chin or on his forehead. It's like this.
It's a flat
It's a flat hand
under his chin.
under his chin.
Huh. Okay, yeah, because one of my friends commented about that, and I hadn't heard this one before.
Mhm.
And she had said the same thing, that she was with a group of people. It was like 6 people, and they mentioned that they thought the statue, the thinker, had his fist on his forehead
Some people remember
until
it that
being
way, too.
told
Yeah.
that he actually had it on his chin.
It's
but that's
not a
not even
fist.
true because it's not a fist.
It's not a fist.
See,
It's
I
a
couldn't.
half open hand.
Okay. Yeah, you're right. Okay. I never remember it being on his forehead. I always remember it being on his chin, but I guess I assumed it was a fist. But again, I feel like that's the natural way when you're sitting.
When you're thinking.
But it's right. But like if you're resting your chin on your hand, it's natural to put your hand in a fist. It's really awkward to have it be flat
Yeah.
and
So
down.
his fingers are pointing towards his Adam's apple. When
Okay.
he's
Yeah,
sitting
yeah.
like this.
I know what you're saying. Yeah, now that you say that, I can picture him like that, and that makes sense. I do remember him.
It doesn't make sense to me because I've always thought it was a fist on the chin,
Mm-hmm.
but I guess
Again, I
not.
just think that's the natural way that you would prop your own chin up. So you just
Mhm.
assume that's how he's sitting.
Last thing about the thinker, he's wearing a hat.
Uh-uh.
Mm-hmm. He is wearing
What kind of a hat?
It's like a leather hat. Yep.
A leather hat.
You would
What
think-
style of hat?
Look it up.
Okay.
Look up the
hold
thinker.
on.
He is wearing a
That
hat.
doesn't make any
Type
sense.
in the thinker hat statue. He's wearing a hat. It blew my fucking mind when I realized this. He is wearing a hat.
It just looks like his hair.
Nope. He's wearing a hat. I'm looking at it right now. It is crazy.
Okay, but you can't really tell. Like
I know, but
it
it's
just looks like a bad haircut.
it's like a leather hat.
Okay.
Like a full scully leather
yeah,
hat.
yeah. No, I can see that, but like I feel like you could easily mistake this for hair.
Yep. But he's wearing a hat. So
Okay.
there you go.
I just wouldn't assume that it was a hat, but I don't feel like that's because of an alternate reality
Listen, my
or because
entire
someone is
pedagogy
gaslighting
has
me.
been a lie.
Okay.
You learned something new.
Yep.
Those are all the Mandela Effect examples that I have. I don't know if you have any more.
I don't think so.
Well, these to me can be easily explained by we're just faulty creatures.
Mm-hmm.
We just don't remember things correctly. And again, as I said in the first half of the show, to think that your memory is flawless and the easiest explanation is, oh, my memory's just not that good, or I misremembered it. To say, no, in fact, there's an alternate universe that now we have residue from theirs into ours, or it got messed up, or there's someone in the Matrix trying to mess with me. Come on.
Yeah.
What is the most likely?
I know. Well, we did have someone bring up the term gaslighting about this.
How is it gaslighting?
Like I know. Like I mean, I can understand how that happens in real life. Like when someone tries to make you doubt your recollection of something.
We're talking
or memory.
about Disney movies.
Right, exactly. Like I can understand like if someone is saying you had a traumatic personal experience, or you interpret a situation a certain way that was insulting or offending or whatever, and then someone tries to gaslight you and tell you it really wasn't that big of a deal, or that's not really how it happened, or you're just misinterpreting it or whatever. I mean, that's one thing. That's gaslighting.
Yeah.
I don't see how people are gaslighting us about the spelling of a children's book or whether or not a movie existed with a certain actor. Like, I don't understand what the motivation would be for people or someone to try to convince us that our memories are incorrect.
Yeah, I don't know. Again, what's the motive? We talked about this with the conspiracy theory episode. What's the motivation? I don't know.
Yeah, I can't get there.
So, look, if there are any that we missed that interest you, we'd love to hear them. If you, again, I don't want to insult anybody. These are really fun to think about, and it sort of got my wheels turning. Mm-hmm. But again, my default is, my default is always I'm stupid. So my default is naturally, I fucking misremembered. Whatever, Not
about Shazam. I'm not misremembering.
Listen,
that's the only fucking thing I know.
Tinkerbell got me good. Tinkerbell in fact, a friend of ours who loves Tinkerbell, she posted in the comments a bunch of the ones that we already referenced, like Shazam, and I said, wait until you hear about Tinkerbell. Mm-hmm. She said, what do you mean? And I described it, and she said, no, that happened.
Yeah.
People swear this has happened. So.
Especially, and that's another one where you ask, what do you remember about this? Even if you don't even mention Tinkerbell.
Right.
I think that's why that one got me so good, because you didn't even lead me to Tinkerbell when you asked me.
Probably
You're like,
not.
do you remember the old intro to the Disney VHSs? And I was like, yeah, Tinkerbell came in and,
Never happened.
It's crazy. Yeah, Tinkerbell and Shazam.
Never.
Somebody please explain those to us.
Well, look, if you have any others that you want to touch on, please send them our way if we forgot to mention any. I think we got the most popular ones out of the way. If you do believe in these things, I'd love to hear from you. If you want to post about it on Facebook, maybe there's something about the alternate universe or many worlds metaphysical theory that I'm missing, but I'd love to talk to you about it. And if you just want to get in contact with us for shits, please feel free to do so.
Yeah, or if there's something more about human psychology and how the brain works that could help explain this. I mean, we have zero education in psychology.
I took intro to psychology.
Okay, yeah, we took Psych 101 in college.
I can't say zero.
Yeah, okay, fine.
I have a 1%.
We have a 101 level education
1%.
in psychology.
There you go. My dad was a psychologist, so I'm going to give myself an extra percent.
There you go.
I have 2%. I have 2% maybe knowledge of something.
Yep.
I'm a 2% expert in this.
Yeah. So tell us why this happens.
Yeah. Anyways, look, it's better than the 0% experts about masks and how we shouldn't wear them, apparently. But all right. If you want to get in contact with us, you can do so. Hit up the Facebook page, facebook.com/whileshe'snapping. We do have a Twitter. I regret I'm not as active as I'd like to be. It just seems like Facebook is the place to be when it comes to a podcast of this nature. So hit us up on Facebook. Twitter, as I said, at She's Napping Pod. Instagram, we do a lot of posts on Instagram and polls and whatnot. We'd love to interact with you there at While She's Napping. You can email us at whileshe'snapping@gmail.com. If you want to give us 5 stars and a quick review on Apple Podcasts, that'd be great. We're also on Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, wherever you get your podcast fix from. We appreciate the downloads. We appreciate the interactions. And we appreciate the participation. Next week, little peek behind the curtains. Anytime we talk about something that's pretty heated.
Keeps us up till 1 a.m. arguing.
Cindy and I fight about it. Mm-hmm. Not whether or not we should talk about it. We fight about the topic first. Yep. So we get all the negativity out of the way. And then
or at least we kind of know what we're getting ourselves into.
Right. So next weekend, I want to talk about the fat acceptance community. Mm-hmm.
It kind of builds on some of the things we touched on in our fitness episode.
Right. I want to talk about that because it's a little personal and near and dear to my heart. But I do want to talk about the fat acceptance community, and we'll leave it at that. So until next week, thanks for listening. Take it easy.